Tonight on the MTN News, fighting the flames. We check in on Montana fire crews sent to battle the California wildfires. We'll tell you what was on President Trump's agenda for his first full day back in office.
But if you do see a symptomatic bird, that would be a bird that you wouldn't want to harvest.
From higher prices for eggs to health concerns for humans, the impact the bird flu is having. The MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Progress is being made in the battle against those wildfires that have ravaged parts of Los Angeles, but the toll is tremendous, with close to 20,000 structures destroyed and at least 27 people killed and more still missing. We told you how Montana firefighters were heading to California to help out. Tonight, David J. has an update on what they've been doing.
Firefighters left Columbus almost 2 weeks ago. 10 crews from Montana are staged halfway in between San Diego and Los Angeles on standby, which is a big, important role in case new fires break out.
Truly devastating. I never thought that could happen to that neighborhood.
The fires spread from home to home, quickly destroying one property after another. A furious path of destruction, the likes of which our country has never seen.
It's a matter of minutes.
But even so, Montana firefighters in California have largely spent most of their time waiting.
They're that next wave of defense should a new one break out, because resources are already stretched to their capacity down there.
Rich Calgary is the Columbus Fire Chief, head of one of 10 Montana departments with firefighters assisting in California. He says while most of Montana's 10 engines and firefighters are on standby, they have witnessed destruction in the past that's hard to comprehend.
For them to see their whole community decimated, it's tough on them, just like it is anybody else. At the end of the day, that's you're focused. We understand what the mission is. We gotta, and in some cases, you gotta put emotions off to the side.
Billings Flying Service is also on standby with 4 Chinook helicopters.
It has slowed down a little bit, and it appears that the state is moving the assets towards more of a, preparedness and initial attack capability, so they're getting spread out over the state a little wider.
Bridger Blaine just returned from Los Angeles this weekend.
It's heartbreaking. Passionate about what we do. We love fighting fire. We love aircraft, but it is a little disheartening to see that kind of damage. That's what we hope we can prevent, and we're there to support it, but we also feel for all those communities. It's absolutely devastating.
Blaine and Calgary each say more red flag warnings with Santa Ana winds are in the forecast, and their crews will be ready to respond, possibly for more than the 2-week commitment.
We expect them to be at least sitting standby in Southern California for quite some time now.
They're ready to go and support in any way they can.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
For the third session in a row, Montana lawmakers are considering a bill intended to allow the state to again administer the death penalty. A legislative committee heard a bill that would change the requirements for lethal injection with the goal of allowing the state to resume executions. This after a Helena judge ruled in 2015 that the state's current procedure for lethal injections wasn't in line with a law that requires an ultra-fast-acting drug. State leaders have said they're unable to get drugs that meet the requirements. Opponents of the bill said the language is too broad and would open the door to new legal action every time the state tried a new method of lethal injection.
If this legislature wants to see the capital punishment struck down by the courts as unconstitutional once and for all, this is exactly the bill to do it.
If we limit it again to something specific, we're going to be right back in this if we run into the same problem where the product's no longer available.
Montana currently has 2 prisoners sentenced to death, one since 1983, the other since 1992. The last time the state executed a prisoner was in 2006. Montana lawmakers also heard proposed legislation aimed at strengthening and reforming laws addressing squatting in Montana. Senate Bill 101, sponsored by Republican Senator Becky Beard of Elliston, creates a framework for the removal of squatters by creating a criminal offense for unlawful squatting, creates a process for the removal of squatters, and adds liability protections to law enforcement when removing someone found in violation. Proponents say the bill is needed to add teeth to the current Montana code. Some opponents said that bill could be used to unfairly target renters when a landlord wants them removed, while others said it was unnecessary because Montana already has criminal trespassing laws on the books. President Trump wrapping up his first full day in office. Immigration and AI infrastructure are two of his immediate focus points. CBS News correspondent Erica Brown has more from Washington.
Not too exciting, was it? I didn't think it was a good service, no.
President Trump began the first full day of his second term with criticism for the traditional prayer service held the morning after the inauguration. One of the speakers delivered this message to Trump.
I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away.
As Trump plans possible mass deportations, some communities, including Evanston, Illinois, are trying to prepare illegal immigrants.
We know that there's a possibility that our residents will be under threat, and we want to arm and empower them with every piece of information.
The Department of Homeland Security announced illegal immigrants can now be arrested at sensitive locations like churches and schools. Over 20 states have sued to stop Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship, which guarantees U.S.-born children are citizens regardless of their parents' status.
An executive order does not have the power to override the Constitution.
Hello, everybody.
Trump wrapped up his day with remarks about billions of dollars in private sector investment to build a supercomputer that will help develop the next generation of artificial intelligence. The new venture called Stargate will start with a data center project in Texas.
This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential under a new president.
The president also met with GOP congressional leaders as he moves his agenda forward. Erica Brown, CBS News, Washington.
Well, here is something you don't see very often in the Deep South. That's not sand covering the beach in Gulf Shores, Alabama. That is snow. From Texas to Florida, a rare winter storm bringing dangerous cold, snow, and ice to places that very seldom see it. About 170 million people from the Rockies to points eastward are under warnings and advisories.
Start tonight with the national map and show you current temperatures. Right now, Billings at 26 degrees is warmer than almost all of the major reporting stations in the eastern half of the country. Until you get down into South Florida, I guess New Orleans, they're at 29, but they actually have more snow on the ground right now than we do. And the snow is continuing to impact big areas through especially the Gulf and then all along the Carolinas here. You can see the snow from Georgia continuing to move up. Some of this is relatively heavy tonight as well, and these are areas that normally, if you get a little bit of snow, it's a big deal. It's the worst conditions they've seen since the 1800s. We've got more warming to come and wind and snow.
Billings Logan Airport saw a record number of travelers this past year. The airport looks quite a bit different after its recent makeover with added terminals, enhanced interior design, and modernized security. Director Jeff Roach says they're still looking at ways to improve customers' experience, but adds this was the busiest year ever with more than 980,000 people passing through the gates in Billings.
Our last big year was 2019 when we had about 950,000. What we've seen is we've seen passengers that have responded to that.
Billings was still fourth in the state in total passengers behind Missoula, Kalispell, and Bozeman, and which is far away number one. It's why Roach says they're still looking to add more airline services so travelers don't choose Bozeman instead. The bird flu has now been detected in every state, with outbreaks reported in 17 of Montana's 56 counties. According to the CDC, that virus has also caused illness in some humans. In tonight's Your Health Matters, our Matt Carmack takes a closer look at the threat the virus poses.
Although it's unlikely to transfer to humans, the United States has already seen one death attributed to the bird flu. That's why officials here in Montana are teaching you ways to protect yourself from the spread.
From a rise in egg prices to a rise in cases, it's understandable why many Americans are worried about the avian flu.
Certainly is a concern in the context that this is a little different than that it has the potential to spread, although we have not seen that. So that's the big fear from the public health perspective.
Cases in infected birds are on the rise. Almost 13 million birds have been confirmed on infected premises in just the last 30 days.
Secretions, feces, and then, like I said, it can also be spread, you know, if you have, say, like a raptor, a species that would feed on a carcass, it can be spread that way too.
According to the CDC, over 136 million birds have contracted the virus since 2022, with cases all across the United States. Over 60 humans infected, including one fatality in Louisiana. Here in Montana, 17 counties have seen outbreaks, most notably in Flathead and Missoula County, with 4 different outbreaks, and more than 130,000 birds impacted in Glacier County.
Should the general public be concerned? Right now, no, because as I kind of pointed out, we have yet to see a instance where there is human-to-human transmission.
Dr. Neil Koo, an infectious disease specialist with Billings Clinic, says the bird flu isn't a large concern right now because of that. Nonetheless, Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks is still educating Montanans about ways to prevent the spread, as goose hunting season is set to end in a couple of weeks.
While you're cleaning the meat of a game bird, you just want to take a lot of precautions to protect yourself. So wearing gloves when you're cleaning a game bird, doing it in a well-ventilated area or even outside if that's an option.
In Billings, Matt Carmack, MTN News.